So this is, let's show my face too. This is the natural SIG automations, SIG release, sorry, meetings for April 17th, 2023. So did anyone actually fill out the agenda? I can have a look at the agenda sheet. Let me see.
Yeah, we can also look at the board. I mean, just put the link.
There isn't any. No one has actually put anything there for a while. So yeah, so anything for you first, Bala? Go ahead. You can look at
Yeah, probably we can see in the board. I mean, is there anything pressing or anything that we need attention to? Let's see that.
I wanted to ask, so we had this week, like when I submitted that image config PR, so we had some kind of issues inside the make file, and that bash is not available inside the go test image. So we discussed it with Rada, and I guess he already raised this topic that like there should be kind of one image and one, let's say, make file or whatever is chosen by the community, which does all testing and also like make file when it executes commands, right? So like it should be common across all projects, I would say.
Yeah, I think Tal raised that point. So yeah, go ahead, Tal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, nobody said that we absolutely have to use the Golang image. It's probably an issue we should open up, deciding together as a community what will be our base image. There are a lot of options, and many of them richer than the Golang base image. The Golang base image is really, yeah, anyway, we need to decide on a base image. And probably we'd want one that has bash, because I'm sure it's going to be useful.
So what is the base image for? Sorry.
That's the image that every proud job gets to be executed in. So the first choice was just basic, the Golang image, which is Alpine based and by default doesn't have bash.
So it's got SH.
Since it's really heavy, and the whole Alpine goal was to create like really small, minimalistic environment. And so, well, I'm not against adding it to the base image or using something else or something. That's just, you know, the matter of preference or whatever the community will feel like. So it's useful. So for now, what I've done for our tests here and on a few actually let's say the production repositories, what I've done is to extend this upstream Golang image with some additional software installed. It's in our Docker Hub account. If you go to the docker.io/Nefio, you will find two images. One is Go tests, and that's what's serving our most of our pre-commit jobs in a pro. And another one, actually, I've updated uploaded last week. That's the scan code for scanning the source code for licenses, copyright, and so on. But I can speak about it later. So when it comes to whichever the image will be useful, Pro is like really flexible. So it doesn't really, it's not like, you know, really bound to what we're using. As Tal said, maybe the bash addition will be useful, but my personal opinion on it is if we're just executing one or two commands like go build, go test, or like, you know, whatever, just one shell binary, it really makes no sense to create image twice the size just to have the shell that people are just familiar with the name of it and don't use any extended features of it.
Well,
So that's
I have the opposite
just
opinion here. Yeah, because remember, Docker, you only download the base image once, right? Docker works on diffs. So I'm in favor of having the richest, biggest base image for Proud that we can, because it just gives us the option to simulate. I mean, with Proud, we're trying to simulate actual runtime environments. So as many tools that we have there, Linux tools could be useful. We only ever download it once, right? All derivatives from that base image will be just those diffs.
right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. So I'm just, as for me, I don't really mind whatever's gonna be the preference. So for now, I'm just extending this Golang base image. So I've added like a license header checker. So for now, it's not enforcing anything, rather than displaying the message during the pre-submit checks that this list of files doesn't have the license header. Later on, we can think about this being a failing component of pre-submit job. So if somebody doesn't add the license header, it will just fail the build in general, or add it automatically. I don't know what's the preference here. And what else? So this Golang based image was extended also with Golang CI lint and with GoSec. So that's what we're running right now as a pre-submit test. But it is open for discussion as well as for pull requests in proud-infra. Sorry, task. What's the repo name? Jeez. Let me quickly check it.
You mean GitHub, maybe, or?
And so if you go to the repository called test-infra, you got the images, and one of it is a subdirectory for now. It's a Go test. You got a Docker file there. So if there's a need to extend it or something, just file pull request for it, and yeah, we can discuss on it.
Dado, a quick question. The image we are talking about, is it purely to run the Proud jobs, or is it to build the images, or to build the images that our controllers and functions would consume, or is it just for the Proud jobs?
That's just for the Proud jobs.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, so Alpine has got SH and not Bash.
It can be installed.
Yeah, you can install.
Okay, and since you have now confirmed that it is only for pro jobs, it is your convenience, whatever you think you need, right? Basically, for your pro. And also, in general, I had a question about why do we want to combine some of these things and have our own images? Why can't we rely on the official images? I mean, just trying to see why the overhead. Why do we need to have an overhead of? I think
it's better to have control over it, because for starters, we can control the versions of the software we're using. So, for example, if you don't want to bump the Go version for some reason.
No, but for every Go version out there that is actually being released, there's an image being published by which is an official image. My only point is, do we want to be able to say that, hey, well, if I use the official image, it works, but when I use the new image, it doesn't work, or vice versa? Trying to avoid that, that's all. Trying to figure out what is the value had in not using, I mean, if there are official images already being published out there, if it is lacking something, it makes sense to create customized versions of that. Trying to figure out what those what is missing that we need to actually go off and try to.
So there are a few cases. There are a few cases that you actually want this. First of all, if you extending the base image functionality with, let's say, some script. So for example, for add license binary, for some reason, if the license list is pretty long, it tends to SIG fold or something from time to time. But if you do like, find and use it as, with exarchs or something, it works without problem. Probably is only issuing it once per file, right? That's the reason. So you have to, in this Docker image, you have to put like a script to issue it, right? So you probably could somehow get it into the official image, but I don't think it's feasible. So that's one thing. The other thing is, as I said, to pin certain versions. So we have kind of auditability of what the version of what component is used for a base image, for some linters, checkers, and whatever. Sometimes you also probably want your own image built if you want to have like a one image to join all the functionalities that you want, just not to pull three separate images. For example, if you want to run everything in one job, because by design, what you have in Pro, after the job is finished, the pod gets discarded and it's basically gone, right? So if you want to reuse some of outcomes of previous, let's say, test or something, without uploading it to the bucket in your environment or whatever storage you choose, that's also the way to do it.
Okay.
So if I think Dennis asked the question, so is it looks like
the conclusion is more like Rado can just go ahead and do whatever central image he wants.
Yeah.
Well,
Base image.
I like discussion, but from perspective of, me submitting PR, I just want tools be available there and it works, right? And I can proceed with something else. But if you decide that if it has to be heavy or not heavy, I guess it's up to us to discuss. I have another actually question.
The big thing for developer in that case would be ensuring that if we do our own manual testing before submitting it into Prow, we baseline it off of the base image to ensure that it actually has everything we need.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I commit, it's being used.
For testing, I don't use actually Docker or image. I probably have to do that, but I use just like make unit or make test and go long CI.
I just unit test. My personal testing is just make run for me actually mostly. Yeah. In that case, but
so is the conclusion that Rado, just to close the loop, Rado, you're going to change the base image to include Bash? Is that the conclusion or not?
Yeah, sure. I can add it. I mean, the only point actually that it was used, the thing that Dennis mentioned, that we worked on in one makefile. There was I'm not really sure how it will work, by the way, to set the pipe file parameter on a bash, but it was inside the makefile, so I'm not really sure if it will work at all. So it was failing because there is no bash binary, right? So that was there. We decided to just remove it, since the rest of the makefile wasn't really making any use of bash anyway.
Exactly. So that shell variable was set, but it was not used. That is the second part of the question, right? So that makefile has to be kind of unified across all repositories and to be working, without any unneeded variables or whatever.
That is good. That is good point. Yes, but also these makefiles differ from repository to repository. They might have common targets like a make lint or make whatever, like make unit or something. But some of them, from what I've seen, they are also used for like a local development stuff, right? So like uploading to Docker Hub or something. So they for sure will differ, but the core part of it, I agree. This has to be common, and so far we've been doing this. I've submitted a few pull requests to even those out between a few repositories. Is based on this makefile that Vish actually submitted for. Don't remember which repository was first to use it, but it's mostly this one. So it has an option to run a binary or run Docker container over it if that's what you're using on your development environment locally. So, for example, to put this into perspective, what I'm saying, if you go to like your Nephio projects, Nephio/project/Nephio, right? So makefile that's there, that's basically what Vish created, and so it has a kind of dual function to be able to run this on your local environment using the container environment, or to run binary, like for example Golang CI lint directly. So that's the second thing. That's the second approach that we're using in a pro, right? But if you want to issue the same command with this let's say linter version on your laptop, then you can use like a Docker container. So hence you have the versions as variables on top of this makefile, right? So that's what we have. That's what we have for now, and well, bit by bit, we're trying to change it to be uniform as much as possible between the repositories.
Cool, thank you. So it's in progress.
Yeah.
Then I have another question I asked before in Slack, but do we have Docker repository already? I know that there is, but I tried to use, there is Nephio like Docker repository, right?
Yeah.
I tried to push there, I don't have rights, obviously. So well, I guess I cannot push it there anyways, but I need a name of the repository to put it into that makefile, because makefile has a variable which is being used later on, right, to create controller like operators, right, and push the image there. So
are those gonna be so are those like some intermediate images that are needed to create something else during the process? I would have to see this makefile, but just in general, is this something that's gonna be a distributable part of Nephio, or this is the containers?
Well, of 3.5GC is an example, I guess so, right? Because it has to be downloaded into the workload cluster, well, and do its job, right? So like do reconciliation of this like UPF, SMF, IMF deployments which we are creating.
Okay. Yeah. So that was actually one of the points I was gonna to talk about. So for Docker image generation, what I'm using now is a tool called Kaniko, which allows you to build your Docker image basically without using Docker. So we're not using Docker inside of Docker to build a Docker image, right? So it's not only wasteful, but it's just simpler, right? It's because when you think what's Docker image, what Docker image is, you don't really have to have all this infrastructure around it to create it, and that's the sole purpose of this Kaniko tool. There are more tools like KO originated from Google project and few others. It also has a function to upload it to whatever repository you will use for it, using the Kubernetes secret infrastructure. So maybe we can incorporate if you need some like intermediate container or something created.
Well, it's not intermediate container. Let's say we wrote somebody checked in like PR in 3.5GC repo, right? Like everybody, all tests passed, and when it's merged into, it's approved, and when it's merged into main branch, right? There should be a job which creates that image and pushes it to repositories.
Okay, I get it now. Okay, yeah. So this is already in place. I was doing some tests on it, so I think that the 3.5GC will be ideal project to actually implement it first on it. So the image generation is in place, so we can work on it to get this working. Yeah.
Cool. So just give, if you can give a name of the repository, and well, myself or somebody who is going to check in next PR, we're going to put it into the make file because it's is a variable there. So right now I submitted with my personal Docker repository, right? Which is not correct.
Yeah. So the repository. Well, basically, what I got from Aravind is under docker.io/Nevio.
Okay, cool.
And at this if you want like a placeholder for it, so this can be used. But as I was saying, for building images itself, we're gonna use kind of like an external app. So this will probably not be issued from Makefile, rather than if you merge pull request, the post submit job that runs, so the post submit jobs run on a merged content, right? So this will generate the image based on some trigger. We can work on that because we don't really want to have to build the Docker image every time somebody merges pull request. It will put some strain on our infrastructure, and it's I guess it's not really needed, right? So we can agree on some triggers. So for example, to have a file called version or something, and whenever you change this file, it will then trigger the job that will after merging it will build Docker image and upload it to repository. So
then we have to agree on the time when we change that file. So let's say there is some milestone reached, somebody goes and just updates the version from 1.1 to 1.2, and it goes up, right?
Yeah, something like this. So we can I guess tomorrow or somewhere around this week we can have like a separate code about it. I'll show you what I've got for now and how it works, and we can work of incorporating into your flow that you were saying.
Okay, cool.
We need something similar, Rado, for functions. So it's also Docker. So we have to generate Docker images from the function images so it's similar to us.
So I guess it's gonna be all very similar, right? So once we got this working.
Let's first get Dennis to work, because he's probably closer to the need, and we can take whatever he got and then take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we need one Docker image per function, right?
Yes, but we have to start building the infrastructure to be able to fit into the system, right? So that's why I raised my hand, we should have to start preparing that right for next week. If we want to start integrating, we need to deliver images, right? So and what do we do for intermediate test images that we need to test potentially? Is it something that we can do on our own, or we have to or we use the generalized Docker Hub if we are not pushing them all the time?
I guess
For
it's better to keep everything in one place, right? So
Yeah, but what I'm asking is the following. So every time I do a check-in, there will be a new image produced, I'm assuming, with every PR or not, or it will be only done when we bump up the version.
I think it's better to do it when you bump the version, for example, or create a tag or GitHub release or something to build it then. So we're just not overstrain our infrastructure. It's not really in terms of usage, we're not really killing it right now. But I guess with multiple PRs being merged in every repository, we can possibly put a bit strain on it. For now, we can check this approach to build an image every PR. It will change only the part that's changing, right? So the common of the image will stay. So it might not be a lot of data. We can experiment on this.
Yeah, because I prefer that for now, just to see how bad it is, to be honest.
Yeah,
Because we only have very few images, in my view, Denis, right? Because we have 3 for the workload, and we have a few for the management cluster. So it's not that we have a huge amount of images at the moment.
Yeah, 4, right? For the
Yeah, 4 plus the controllers. Let's say we have the iPad and the VLAN, so it's 6 plus then a few. Let's say in total we maybe have 10, 15, and they are not going to be checked in all the time, right? So
yeah,
so it's not huge, is what I'm trying to say.
So just to understand, sorry, I was just away for a minute. Rather, what do you propose? So every time there's a PR, right? Let's say free 5GC repo, there is a PR. Then we will build the image, because that when the integration test starts, right, it has to consume the image, right? So, and then let's say we are integration test runs every PR or every once in nightly, whatever the cadence, then obviously it needs to get the latest one, isn't it? How does that one work?
Well, so I presume the integration tests won't be running every PR when every PR is submitted, right? So it will be like a kind of like a cron job, right?
Yeah.
Going every few hours or something. So we can just add to pipeline to tag one of the images that's last with last, and the job will pull the image that's tagged with last key, right?
Okay.
Because we have to also bear in mind that potentially there might be additional PRs being pushed, and the integration tests are running with other versions. So we might end up we might have to tag some of these images somehow, right? At some point.
Yeah, that's a good point, because at one point it will be a problem to actually tell which latest image is the latest, right? If this wasn't like 3 versions before.
Because you have on one end parallel development and then the integration test, right? So you probably want to split that somehow a little bit, because otherwise every time we do a change in the main thing might be not relevant. They will get it. Huh?
As a maybe if we there should be some distinctive thing for each build, then we can then use to trigger integration test, right? I'll have to log into it.
So, question on the integration test versus end-to-end test. I hope people understand the difference. And integration test is, you have 2 components: component testing, basically, component integration testing. And end-to-end test would be the scenario test probably. And for integration tests, I'm thinking at the merge when you merge a new PR, every time you merge a new PR, there'll probably be a new image built. And if it is impacting that particular function, a new image will be built. and that can actually be used. That image can be the latest and that can be used. But the integration test will itself will be running as part of every PR being submitted though. With that image, the possible class.
That's a good point. Well, the ultimate question here will be, how, what will be the extent of those tests and how long it will take and how much resources you need to run them. So we can run everything, every PR, if it's fairly lightweight, and it will take like a few minutes that you can just sacrifice to wait to, I don't know, F5 on your keyboard to see the results on a PRAO or whatever the outcome of the build will be. And if it's gonna be something that's really like resource hungry, we'll have to decide on the frequency and the triggers to run it. I guess this also has to be coordinated with Victor. Victor's not here, I guess.
He's in KubeCon.
Yeah,
Hey, Wim, you probably will see him in KubeCon.
I see there. Ah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's at KubeCon is what he said. He was going to be in KubeCon this week.
All right.
Oh.
So we can have a party.
Yeah, you should.
Party of very few people though.
I'm gonna be there remotely, so we can party remotely as well.
We can have a virtual beer.
Yeah, and Stephen, at least just to I mean the ongoing discussions are good, but let's just dedicate at least last 10 minutes to go over the board. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Denny still has a hands up, so go ahead.
Yeah. After the discussion.
I have a quick one actually. Are we planning to have some kind of dev branch and build images there as well for testing, local testing, or everything only like feature branches and main?
So Dennis, when you say dev branch, you mean, can you?
Well, like, you have main branch, which is only for releasing. And you have a dev branch where you do some kind of, first everything goes into dev, and from dev everything is tested.
I don't know if I don't think that's a release process that we would do that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I think it's basically you'll push the PR maybe to your branch, to your fork, and then you'll go to the main branch, and if there is the release will tag and branch at that point of time. That's what I'm thinking. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, so far the release process we agree on basically just, well, ensuring that all the pre-submits are good, and it goes into the branch. We'll release off of those branch when it passes all the integration tests that we as a community decided what I needed for release 1. So there. Yeah. I mean, we don't have like a staging environment and staging branch, and then on the last week move everything down to the release branch. That would be that would be a little too much.
So it will be continuously being merged to the main branch as the PRs. Yeah, and PR are many things that run. Yeah, please go ahead.
It is tempting concept to have a feature branches, but then it comes the time that you have to merge them. Yeah, and that's the
so instead of what we are giving like 1 week to go from fully integration test and release, you probably have to put like 1 month to start merging everything together.
But nobody wants to do it, or somebody goes for like PTO
we're pushing all the work down to the end. That would be that's not something we can afford at this point.
Thank you. Clear.
Actually, I have something. Wim and I talked about the last week, two nights my time last week, with the operator teams. There were for a test infra. So this is probably more a Vish question since Victor's not here. We are looking to see if we have support for regular Kubernetes interfaces that are external of the cluster. So for example, for FreeFileGC, SMF and AMF, they expose a service, and I mean, right now it's bound to a cluster IP because it's just one cluster. But then move it for our test environment, there will be AMF, UPF will be AMF, UPF, SMF are actually running on 3 different clusters. So for AMF and UPF, well, AMF, UPF don't even talk, so that's fine. For AMF and SMF to talk, for SNF to talk to other network functions that we'll probably bring up outside of AMF and UPF and SMF, like NRF. And for AMF and SMF to talk, we need to, the way it does today is it exposes the service. And then, for example, if you do cross cluster, the easiest thing to do is to put it under a load balancer. And then so everyone will use the service IP, and then it will reach the AMF pods or SMF pod, which one serves as a server at that point.
Stephen, do
so
you mean NRF or load balancer?
Yeah, for example, right? So let's say load balancer. We can conversion doing load balancers with the operator team. And so the well understood thing is using Metal LB, which is great. The question now is on the test environment. If A, are we going to use Metal LB? That's a good thing to talk about. And B, how are you going to bind the actual IP address onto the server's IP across different clusters? So Vim made a suggestion earlier that, oh, some make everything a secondary interface, which is interesting, but it has an impact on what we render for the operator team. So I just want to know, for a test infra perspective, is it something easy to support?
So a general discussion, at least when Arvind and I talked about very early on also, was that other than what we have running in VMs, right, this end-to-end tests, where we actually have 4 client clusters, we also wanted to actually have actual Kubernetes clusters as well at some point of time that we wanted to have.
Yeah.
And we were going to go with initially with GKE clusters until last week when we brought this up, we came to know it doesn't support multis, right? So we still need that. I think
yes, we do. So two problems. One of them is if it's on cloud or on your own environment, most likely you already have some sort of IPAM systems that would able to bind the service to it, or some sort of IP requesting systems that would be able to bind a service IP into your load balancer. That would be great. On Kind, I would imagine if you Google it, it's well supported that you can do Metal LB on Kind and do load balancer interface. For our environment, the IP allocations needs to be done somehow. So just want to know whether or not there's something.
See, the problem is the following, right? Is that if you take so at the moment the IPAM for the regular network is basically Kubernetes right now, right? So it's basically local. So it means any IP that you would allocate or that would come from that network is coming from the Kubernetes cluster, local. Which means that if you want to, for example, set up an AMF on cluster 1 and AMF on SMF on cluster 2, someone has to take care of all of that.
Yes.
And it's not going to be the hydration, because we have no idea of what those IP addresses are. So
yeah, so that's the question, because in a way we need test infra if we want to support this, and then that's also debatable. If we don't, I can talk to our operator teams and we change that. But then if we do, it basically means that you kind of have to assume the function of like a cloud. So if you do an LB on a service, the IP address that you allocate for that LB service IP is handled by the cloud. Right, it's handled by Kubernetes that you hook up with the cloud. So somehow, if test infra is able to allocate a routable IP address between the 2 clusters and bind it into service IP and propagate the information back to us, that would be fine.
So we can still do that using VMs, right? We can actually still bring up actual clusters instead of VMs, basically.
Yeah, but the problem is the following, Vish, is you have to do all the plumbing.
So Stephen, does it have to be load balancer, or can it be node port?
It could be anything. You can, if
it's a service, basically.
It could be node port if you want to. Cluster IP is probably out because we do cross clusters, but at least you can do all kinds of stuff.
Because see, the reason I brought it up, so
maybe an easier one, because then like to Wim's point, node port IPs are assigned by the local clusters.
Wait, so
the local clusters would not be able to route between the clusters, right? So
Yeah,
you still have to
but I've been
propagate it.
proposing so far, right, which is also what is actually at the moment into Victor's drawings, right, is that we do all of it through the secondary interface because you have full control. So there's nothing else to be done, just setting it up like that. As a
It's
result,
usually
100%
how it is done. Yeah, go ahead,
100%
sorry.
control. Yeah. So that's why I was let's say surprised on one end that when Steven brought it up, because I can tell you we will create a rabbit hole. There's a whole pile of issues that you have to deal with, or someone has to deal with, and I'm wondering whether it's possible. Someone has to sort this all out. But it's not easy.
Yeah.
Usually how it is done in production, like let's say right now, well, everything is on secondary interfaces and multis, like Wim says. And that information for IP addressing is kind of is planned before something is deployed. So IP ranges are known. And in our case, I guess it should be part of something like 5G topology, which already knows IP addresses, which ranges at least, which are given to different functions.
And that's what we do. What we do then is, so at the moment, if you look to our playbooks, what we are doing is we are setting up the pools for every cluster, and you just draw from there, and you have 100% control. So the reason why Orange had all these challenges was exactly because of this problem.
Yeah, well, it also, like, then another problem is service discovery. If one IP address is given to EPO, that IP address has to be known by IMF or SMF, like on some interfaces. And I guess for services, what can be done, we can rely on service discovery between two functions, not on the IP addresses, but rather DNS names. When services set up for something, it has a notation, and that the notation some kind of triggers the DNS system to create a record.
And that's why I'm saying is someone has to create all that plumbing, right?
Yes, yeah. For sure.
If you want to do all of that stuff, you have to create all the plumbing.
So basically, Steven, the problem statement is if we want to create an external service, basically not a node post service or not a cluster local service, we want to be able to allocate IP. That is what that is the problem statement.
You have to, well.
No, it's not just allocate IP. That's not the problem. We have to communicate across clusters in a way
we would have to have some sort of, I mean, a lot of this actually is handled by MetalLB if you're using MetalLB. So but you need to give them IP address pool to get it from. So they'll be the one who actually responds to the service controllers backend.
So that is one way that you're thinking about MetalLB, right?
That would be the probably easiest way to do it, because I mean, I've done it in my local cluster before on different clusters. So it shouldn't be deadly, but then it just have to see how that works with Kind. It's a little more natural, I'll be honest, to support it using Kubernetes interfaces and servers. And then it's less impacting, if you will, than to the operator teams, because they are thinking of generating a service resource and all that stuff outside of, I mean, it's still doable. I mean, it's an IP addresses at the end of the day. So that would, I mean, we have to change the config and try it out to make sure that works.
When you say MetalLB that you ran, did you run it on a bare metal server?
I did. I ran. I did a talk at KubeCon back in 2020 where I ran 2 or 3 clusters, each of them just 1 VMs. And then use MetalLBs to allocate the LB interfaces between them.
Hey guys, I had my hand up for a while.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Look, this is very interesting, but I really want to separate the production environment management of infra that we eventually want to have in Nefio from what we're doing here in SIG Release, which is just making sure that we can test things. There's a lot to be said about infrastructure management. What do you do with existing sites and inventories, and how do you provision new sites? How do you do the interconnectivity between them? I feel like we're going down a rabbit hole. I think for our purposes here, we can just find something that works for our test environments. And even if things are hard coded or provisioned.
No. So it's a little more effect than that. So the moment we switch to a different thing, it affects what the operator will render. Yeah, so in this
I
case,
know, but
if
this
we
is
if we
just
go
a
with
very
secondary
big
interfaces,
discussion, right?
the team would no longer create a service. Right.
So I think we should do it in a very natural way in the in
Mhm.
terms of, so fundamental question, sorry Tal, maybe I was going to ask the same thing that you asked. So probably I want to add a question. So if the two client clusters, right, Stephen, on the same
Mhm.
VM, if let's say we, so you're suggesting that the operator, let's say SMF operator, right? So SMF controller. So wherever the operator that deploys that CR, so it has to define. It also needs to deploy the manifest to create the service, and that service is based on whatever we decide, whether it could be a node port or a load balancer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well,
So-
this is why I'm suggesting we don't touch that and use ingress instead. So, because in production environment, you'll probably be creating just a standard service, but then you can do an ingress that connects to that service. So we don't have to taint, the existing operator and what it creates. We don't want to create different.
Yeah,
kinds
so
of
that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to. I mean,
Right.
to be honest, we're not building operator for production. So let's be honest there. So take that out of the way. Even then, I would like the operators to support cases where it goes beyond our test
No,
environment.
exactly.
Yeah.
So ingress can do that, because ingress is
Mm-hmm.
another resource that we can inject as part of our testing, and that has nothing to do with this. The service is exactly the same service. So we're not touching what happens internally to the cluster, like creating node ports, for example, which will absolutely not work everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So the ingress is a separate resource that can filter to that service and exposes it outside. That's what it's for. Right. So I think that's the right way to work. There is issues if we're using kind. There is some documentation about how to do ingress in kind. We'll have to look into it, but I think that's the direction to go.
Yeah. So the only thing was asking if the test infra team can do like quick investigations and see if that would work. That would be
Yeah,
great.
I have some
Adding a
experience
comment
with that. I can help. Yeah.
to the issue.
Okay.
That way, Victor is also aware.
Yeah. So I'll put that on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to project boards. You want to run it, Bala?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to state the so there are a couple of main things there. I think the earlier font was better. Actually, I was able to read that better. Could you increase it? Yeah, that was better. I think. Yeah, I don't know what you did. Yeah, I don't know for others, but it's looking much better for me. So so there are a few things. There are a few things in progress that's carried out from the last one. So I just wanted to see the to-do list and see where we are. And do you want to, Stephen, do you want to do the in progress first and then go to the to-do? That may be a better one, right? So I don't think there's anything needs to be done for the first one. What do you guys think? Ensure Nephia project and repos are open to contributors. I think we did. I think we are done. I think John has created all the users, given the credentials, etc. And I think anybody can look at an issue right now and then add comments to it, raise PRs. Is anybody not able to do that? I think.
Yeah, I think we're good on that one.
I think we are good on that one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the second
Yeah.
one is the main it's about probably, and Arvind and Stephen, you were working with Lucy, and I think that one is clear now, right? We are able to create the OSS version of the Docker registry so that we don't have.
Yeah. So I don't know. So we should ping her again. But then so she said this. So she cut and paste a chat or email script saying that the folks from Docker now consider us a qualify for that OSS program. So how quickly do we switch over and say that we have now an OSS tier level of usage? I'm not I'm not sure whether that's actually happening now yet. But then obviously you push towards the Docker registry from Nephew officially. So that should happen at some point, or it may have already happened. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, let me ping her to make sure that this is
Well,
already happening.
That's already in place, and there, as I was saying, there are already a few images pushed there. It's just a matter of so the naming will stay the same.
Yeah, the name
It
stays
will
the
just-
same. Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. You
The only
wouldn't
diff-
even see you wouldn't tell the difference until we really push it, obviously. But you wouldn't tell the difference.
until you hit the limits.
Yeah, until you hit the limits. But then right, supposedly we got approved, so it should be good.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I think probably that's in progress. The third one, the configure priority schedule jobs in the build cluster. I think we are. My understanding is we are good there. Rado, what do you think?
Yeah, that's done. I will.
I can move it actually. That's fine. That's when I said done, it's merged. Anything that needs to be done that. Probably you can refresh, Stephen. I mean, I just moved a couple of issues to the done board. Now I just want to, let's go to the to-do things. So create up the label sync. I think that is kind of a lower priority, but that's basically, we have multiple repos and.
Yeah, it's just for housekeeping, so we don't lose track between what we have
Exactly,
in pro configuration versus what we have in configuration in a GitHub. We don't have many labels now, so it's not really, as you said, not really critical. I have it somewhere on my to-do roster, so
That's fine.
This I will try to finish it this sprint.
That's fine, thank you. And integrate the test bed with Pro for automatic invocation. So for that, I think let's wait on that task a little bit. Let's go down. The third, there are a few tasks which I think is kind of important. One is set up test bed for integration and system tests. I think that may be, can you click on that one if you don't mind, Stephen? Let's see that. That's an epic, or I try to do some housekeeping. Okay, yeah, I think I should make this into an epic actually. Okay, set up Nephew Cloud as test environment. So, I hope we can make some progress of this task. I know Victor, Vish, and others are looking into this one. So, Vish, do you think we can make some progress on this one, this sprint?
Yeah, this is the one that me and if you are Ravi were actually going to talk to Victor about. So I think it was number 47. That is what was assigned to us. And
no, this is not the packaging story, just to confirm, Vish. This is about the test bed.
Sure. Let me discuss this with Rado because he's available.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's one thing. Hopefully I really hope we can make some progress on this one, because our goal is to start integration testing next sprint. So probably we need to get some, I think the definitions are kind of vague. If it is not clear, probably we can have a discussion and make the definitions better for this one. But at this point of time, I created two tasks here. Set up a Nephew Cloud test environment and the test bed for the management and edge clusters. So that is something probably in a couple of days we can discuss whether we can start this one. I think we should. I think we need to do something on this one to be ready for the next sprint.
So for the integration testing, if what I take away from integration testing is like interaction between components, which is not between clusters. It is like one code actually using a database, for example. That is how I see it as. Is that what you're also thinking? I mean, that's what I think you preempted by saying maybe some of these terminologies need to be reworked. At least I know in general we have a way to bring up client clusters instead of a VM, and we should be able to have interactions going on. So that is not something that we have to start from scratch. But if we were to look at any interaction between components that needs to be tested out, we also had discussed how we can use things like Docker Compose and Podman's pods that can be used to do the interaction. So I have ideas there.
Okay. So here, so I must admit I'm guilty of using integration and end-to-end testing in the same vein. But this one is more about end-to-end testing.
Okay.
So I'll change the terminology. So this is basically getting, if you see the second task is to set up the test bed for management and edge clusters. I think to your point, Vish, I think we have some pieces of it. I think we can reuse it from what we had for.
Yeah, definitely. And we can always, of course, we can always improve things. The only other thing from end-to-end integrate, end-to-end, if we were to talk about, I was thinking about like I said earlier, we're thinking about actually using the Kubernetes clusters themselves rather than just relying on kind clusters. That is what me and Arvind had discussed a while back. And we were looking for GKE clusters. And then we came to know last week that it doesn't support Multus. So that is why maybe we need to look for. And now we have another requirement that Stephen Wong is mentioning about how we can
that is true. So if we don't have to do the sandbox, the kind cluster things is not a requirement.
Can you, sorry, you were low.
Oh, okay. So so the reason why we use kind is because we want to funnel that into a single VM back into ONE Summit, because that's like a thing that is easy to present
correct
to users that are using the workshop. But then if you're thinking about like a generic test bed, you're definitely not limited by kind, for sure.
Correct.
So
I think
it's testing for team's decision. If you want to walk away from kind, that's perfectly okay.
No, I think the way, at least my personal thought process is that, hey, for somebody running an end-to-end test, if it can also be run as part of a single VM with 4 kind clusters, I want that ability for a developer to be able to debug in his own setup, which he can bring up as a VM. But I also want to make sure that we are not just using kind clusters, we are actually doing in the actual Kubernetes cluster as well. It needs to be deployed both ways. So I would rather have both rather than just only one. So we need to get to the second part also of deploying it on Kubernetes cluster as well. Those were my initial discussions when I was talking to Arvind back then. And I still think that we need to do that. Having both those, kind and actual Kubernetes cluster.
No, nevertheless, the date is still hitting us.
Yeah. I mean, at least we know that we have.
If you guys can do it, great. But then obviously, when we started on this, we were thinking, hey, maybe leveraging as much as possible from the ONE Summit would be simple. But then if you can do the other way, yeah, sure, that would be great.
Okay. So yeah, let me ping Victor again too.
I would suggest the same. The 2 things we need to keep in mind: these are running as a part of the PR jobs, maybe cron jobs. So the time to set up, not only there are 2 things: the amount of resources that are needed, and then time to set up the resources and then run the tests. So those are also the factors, because this may be running multiple times, maybe at the extreme case with every PR. So that is something to consider as well when we are talking about the setup. So I think hopefully we can make some progress on that one, this particular story. And then if you go back, if you don't mind.
A lot of time.
So that is the define and document system and integration test bed. So that is probably, we have something in that story. Wim has put some diagrams, Victor has put some diagrams. Probably I think it's a matter of once the test infra team takes the decision, probably take those pieces together and create a document. And the next one is Rado, is like, I think hearing you, I think probably you might have started making progress on that one.
Yes, that's practically done. We closed this week.
Okay. Well,
at least testing for it during the PR submission, so it will give the feedback to the particular file. For example, needs a header with a copyright.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is that. And just a second. Just sorry, one more meeting just sprung up. So I think set up the test bed. That is the second one. That's the second task that we already looked from there.
3031 is basically just
just
a subtask under the other one.
Subtask, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two things. The gist I wanted to get to is probably from a release team perspective. I think we are good on the. We have established some process, and the fundamental repo build job setup is done, and obviously some changes are there today as as we discussed that were in terms of changing the make files, etc. Like some of the things that Dennis brought up. Other than that, probably we should, our main focus probably is to do some make some progress on the test bed for this one, so that we can be ready for the sprint 3.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, 5 minutes over. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm done with that. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Talk to you folks next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.